Hello, everybody, and welcome to Astrology and Beyond by Tatiana. And I'm also broadcasting for ANN, Archetypal News Network. Now, for you who have been following me for a while, you know that I've been going by Astrology Victoria, and I am in the process of revamping and renewing and rebranding because I no longer live in Victoria and I have moved on a little bit from where I was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where I started Astrology Victoria. And for those who remember Dulcie, my dear friend who was part of Astrology Victoria with me, Dulcie has been going off in her own journey at this moment. So I decided to keep going. I've been here with you for the past 2 years, uh, every month, just bringing you my love, my knowledge, my wisdom, whatever comes through spirit with my intuitive gifts, and to help guide you through times that are pretty challenging on the planet right now. We know we have been going through the most probably convoluted times in our lifetime, in these past years, in the planet. And so Astrology and Beyond is my holistic practice of astrology. I wanted to start a little bit with this because I view life and my experience as an embodied being as something much bigger than just my physical existence here. And for those of you who have been following me for a while, well, I include meditations, guidance, intuition, things that just pop up from whatever. I even do some theater if needed. So this is my invitation to you to come into my world of my vision, my view of astrology that I share. And it is very interesting that it is very much aligning with the energies of Leo and the energies of this changing nodal axis from the Taurus Scorpio into the Aries Libra. And I'm going to be talking to you about that today quite a bit, because that is kind of a pivotal point that it's starting or beginning this month. And with this shift, we have a whole new realm of things happening. And this is interesting because it's happening today. And there's two ways of calculating the nodes. There's the true node and the mean node. Let's not worry too much about that technicalities. It depends on the wobble of where the nodes is. And well, maybe I should give you, especially if you're not very astrology savvy, a little bit of what the nodes of the moon mean and what they are, because this is going to be important for the next 18 months as we shift into a different, or a little bit of a different energy from what we have been experiencing in the past 18 months. And that obviously is, I'm doing the report for this second half of July and focusing a little bit on those nodes. So let's begin with that nodal shift. So the nodal shift is moving from, the north node is moving from Taurus to Aries, and the nodes usually move backwards. But what are the nodes? These are points. There's the sun, and from the earth, we imagine that the sun moves around the earth because we're on the earth, so the sun would move around it, right? And that's imaginary line of the sun moving around the earth is called the ecliptic. And then the moon moves around the earth. So the sun would move here in a big orbit, and the moon would rotate in smaller circles. Well, there are points where those two imaginary lines of the pathways of the moon and the pathway of the sun around the earth would cross. And those imaginary points in space are what we call the lunar nodes. Now, they have different meanings, depending also what current of astrology we're looking at. So in Vedic astrology, they are called Rahu and Ketu. Rahu is the north node and Ketu the south node, representing the head of the dragon, Rahu, and the tail of the dragon. And in evolutionary astrology, we see these nodes as destiny points, as very important evolutionary points of destiny for the soul to experience an energy or an archetype that it has not been familiar with that pulls the energy forward. It's a desire of experience. So from a perspective of the ancient astrology or Vedic astrology, we would think that the North Node is not necessarily a positive thing, but it's the nature of desire, something that the soul is pulled towards, to gather, to amass, to eat. That's why it's the head. I'm trying to make it really simple. And through that experience, it acquires a certain experience. Now, the North Node in evolutionary astrology, it's a point of destiny because it's also the lessons that the soul wants to understand and the energy that the soul wants to embody. So on a personal level, every single person has a natal north node and a natal south node. Now the because the nodes move every 18 months, they change signs. Well, these are kind of a little bit not so much generational, but a chunk of people have the same node. And that means that a chunk of people have an evolutionary destiny point of learning. And that would be the North Node. The North Node is the pointing finger that says, go over there, feel that pull and have that experience. Now, because the nodes are not planets, they don't have gravity, they don't have mass. In archetypal astrology, we don't consider them as important. I do a little bit of holistic astrology where I like to take a little bit of all the philosophies and try to understand the study of astrology from my own experience and from what I see with my clients and people around me. And that's how I get my interpretation. So to talk about the notes at the nodal shift, for me, the understanding is how was your life or the experiences you were called to have or pulled to be in the last time the nodes were in Aries. The north node was in Aries and the south node was in Libra. This is kind of how we can go, oh yes, I had these kinds of experiences that were inviting me to feel this energy. Now, if it's your own north node in your birth chart, it's a lifelong calling for that experience. In my case, my north node is in a Virgo, and the lifelong calling of that experience, Virgo in the 10th house, it's to be of the world, in the world, and serving the world, and perfecting and helping to perfect things and leave a legacy for the world, and perfect also myself, my craft, and then share it in service, because that's part of the Virgo. That's how I see my whole curve of life pulling me towards the service. And here I am on YouTube giving you this, not only trying to be better at each time, but also helping you, serving you to also improve your own life. So this is how I experience my personal North Node. Now, talking about Aries and Libra, the North Node in Aries is about initiating, and it's about the encounter with one's self and one's desires to experience something that doesn't necessarily need another. That doesn't mean that we are not counting on others. The North Node in Aries will point towards desires for impulse, because Aries is about impulse. So it's a primary impulse to fulfilling something that is very personal. And we might be seeing in the next 18 months that we are leaving behind a little bit the need to rely on others for everything. Should I do this? What do you think about this? I'm not sure. All this doubt, maybe I cannot do anything is only by if it's by myself. It's this reliance, this heavy reliance, and that would be the shadow of Libra, would be the indecision, and then the codependency. That doesn't mean that we don't do things with another person. It could be working on a project or something that is very deeply connected to your own desires and sense of evolution, and it can be accompanied by somebody else. If that someone else, it's in the same boat as you, if they have the same call or pull as you, then welcome. You can welcome that into your experience. You might feel in the field or in your field of experience that you're called, or feel in an inner sense of wanting to break away a little bit from the groups of people or things that you might have relied on previously, and go a little bit solo. And this is not a bad thing. How and how that will play out in your life depends on the placement of your Aries house in the chart. So wherever you have your Aries house, that's where this energy is going to be calling you or pulling you. Does this mean that the North Node is the all and end all be all? I don't know how to say that. No. The planets and the dynamics of the planets is what really creates the astrological environment. The North Node is just a suggestion, is a hint. It's a hint that says we're living through these experiences or this lens through this period of time, and then all the other influences. So for context, we exited the Taurus Scorpio axis, and looking back, the Taurus Scorpio axis was really about what I perceive or my resources and the resources of others, very much tied to money and finances and value. What do we value? And the whole time these nodes were transiting through Taurus, we could see in the world, and this is a reality, what was happening. Lots of financial collapses, and of course, because the nodes made contacts to Uranus, so when it makes contacts to Uranus, there can be volatility, and that's what we experienced. But the reason being, or the evolutionary reason for that, was to find value where it truly lies. It's within what you have to offer, and if you have the value that you give yourself, then you perceive value from the external world. You gather your own resources from your sense of value. So anything that was not tied to real value could have been banished during this time. And I'm one of those people that had that happen. And I know many, many, many more. So the whole financial system has been wobbling and almost collapsing, or I wouldn't say collapsing, but changing drastically. And there's new things coming. It's not something just completely collapses. There's always an evolution. So that was for context. The North Node through Taurus was all, at least for me, bringing me all these opportunities. This is when I moved to a farm and I started getting interested in gardening and understanding how to, how can I get something from the earth? And the North Node made contacts to my own Chiron. So that came also with painful experiences of maybe past lives where there could have been slavery, mostly connected to gardening. So for me, and I'm telling you, sharing you a little bit of my personal story so you understand how these nodes can function. For me, it brought me back to experiences that were of the nature of Taurus and that contacted the planets that in my natal chart are there, and in the house that for me was the sixth house, the house again of service, so service with Chiron there. that spells a little bit of memories of slavery. So by giving me an opportunity to be in a farm and have a new relationship with food and with resources, that gave me plenty of opportunity to understand how to get resources from a different place that is not an illusory, I don't know, investment world of zeros and ones that don't exist. Today I was picking black currants and I made jam the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am understanding the abundance. And for me, the culmination of this North Node transiting through Taurus is almost that jump, that evolutionary leap that says, yes, this is how now in my life I get this. So for context, the nodes move about every 18 years, they cycle around. So let's see, when was the last time that that the North Node was in Aries? Was from December 26th, 2004 until June 22nd, 2006. December 26th, 2004 until June 22nd, 2006. So in this time, go back, if you have a journal, and you probably wrote in a journal, what was going on in your life in that time? How was the Aries calling to you? Maybe you wanted to initiate certain projects, or you felt called to do things that were more self-centered. I don't necessarily like the word self-centered, but yes, the self wants an experience that is unique to itself, and maybe people don't understand it, and this is where there could be conflict, right? And we'll get a little bit deeper into that, because that conflict is not over, because as these nodes are changing, and we're having the new moon in Cancer actually today on the 17th, and that new moon has the nodes changing into Aries, and or about to change. They're really about to change into they're at the last, they're just pivoting now. And with that, we have Pluto squaring the nodes. So this is a big one, because we're going to have Pluto through these next couple weeks, also opposing the sun. So around July 22nd is when we're going to have that opposition of Pluto and the sun. And this is where things can present to ourselves again as, what are we trying to control? So one thing is to move in a direction that calls us, that is a unique and individual journey. And another thing is trying to control other people's journey. And this is what this time is going to bring out of us. So with Pluto opposing the sun, what could happen is that people in your life, you might experience people in your life wanting to control you, or tell you what to do, or what you should be doing. And you might be feeling a very deep sense of independence. That's part of the Aries, is independence. I want to do really my own thing. I want to do my own thing. And if somebody's still trying to tell you, no, you can't do that, you might experience that. The reason for experiencing that in others is only to see, where am I controlling other people's journeys? You see, anything that goes in opposition usually is a projection. And again, this might not be everybody's case, because this would be very, very, very specific to people that have the sun in Cancer at those 20, around 25 degrees of Cancer to, let's say, 5 degrees of Leo, give or take, maybe less, but those end degrees of Cancer and beginning of Leo, you might be feeling that really strongly, that somebody outside of you is wanting to control you. Or also you might feel that people have big egos, because that's of the nature of Pluto and the sun. Is the ego, is the expression of a big ego, but it shows the nature of the ego. The reason for this is so that we can see where we are still attached, because Pluto also shows the nature of attachment. Where are we attached to the ego, so we can let it go? Where are we controlling? And also, where are we disempowered to be who we are? That's another layer of this. Because if we're giving our power away to others, and we're just marching to the beat of the drum of other people, this might feel like a very challenging time. So the invitation is, first, am I trying to be the one that's beating the drum for everybody else to follow me? Or am I letting others march to, give me their drumbeat, and I just have to follow because I am disempowered? So this is a time where we might encounter situations that present us with that precise thing. So we can say, at this moment, I have a desire to follow this inner calling. And now that's really nice, because Neptune will be trining the sun. And when we have Neptune trining the sun, there is almost like a spiritual calling for the expression of your soul. It's no longer the ego calling of the expression of your soul. That would be Pluto showing the need to control, or to even think that you know exactly what you want. But if you listen to your soul knows what it wants. You know how your soul knows what it wants? It's when you get those bursts of energy, when you're doing something that you're so passionately connected to. And it's the nature of passion. This is the other piece of that's what's going on through these next few days, is that Venus is still in Leo, Mercury is in Leo, and we will have also the moon in Leo in the next couple days as well. And there might be a deep, deep desire for following our passion. Leo is connected to passion. And if we're following our passion, and actually following through with our passion, and initiating, having the courage to initiate something that really calls to us, to our heart, this is going to be a very fabulous time. If, on the contrary, we're still attached to a sense of identity that is linked to our ego desires, or the need to control or control others, and it's not connected to a soul calling, that's when the challenges might be a little bit harder. But that's why I'm here telling you this, so you can look at it. You can look at what is changing, what is wanting to die, and how those power dynamics show up. And yeah, more often than not, is where am I being controlling? What area of life? And wherever you have Capricorn in your chart, because that's that 29th degree of Pluto that's retrograding, we might experience again in that area of life that something wants to change and completely be removed. And if we're still attaching to the need to control others, Capricorn is about the top bottom structure, and about what I think is the right thing to do, especially when we have the sun involved. It's my ego desires. So here is where we need to be very careful from soul calling and passion, and just raw desire for the sake of desire that doesn't have a foundation that's deeper. I hope I'm clear with this. Now, the other piece of the puzzle that this few next days have in store for us, it's a Saturn opposition Mars. That goes a little bit hand in hand with the Pluto squaring the nodes, because Pluto squaring the nodes wants us to be empowered, to be who we are, and still function within relationship. You see, this is the trick with those points when there's these squares. It's like, I can still be who I am and function within relationship. And within relationship, I mean, it could be personal relationships, or it could be our friendships, our communities. And what I feel the call of this new whole Aquarian paradigm is that we are starting to become more active members of communities, whether it is in your building, in your neighborhood, or sharing in a space in an intentional community. We're kind of moving towards that more and more. And this is where the most shadows come up. I want this, but I want that. And then there's this power dynamics that happen. We want to control the way it has to happen. And the invitation of our evolution right now is, if each one is a piece of a puzzle, find where is your spot. Don't try and over dictate everybody's spot. And don't try to take somebody else's spot. Find your own spot. And guess what? When each person finds their own spot, their own gift, how they fit in with the whole, bloop, bloop, the whole puzzle is resolved. There it is. So this is this evolutionary invite, is to look at, am I actually doing my own puzzle? And how can I fit in with the whole while still sharing my gift that is my passion and is connected to my path? And then notice I'm saying my, because that is a lot about the nature of Aries and the Leo. A lot of fire. And that is okay. Remember, any transits are evolutionary in nature. Any transits are pushing us to do something. So if you feel right now that you're not as connected to others, that you're feeling you want to be a little bit more on your own path, and you might feel guilt, oh, what are the others going to be thinking, or my mom or my boss, or you know what? No, because this is not the time for that. This is the time precisely for going your way and finding your special place in that puzzle. You see? Now, the sun trining Neptune. I was at the sun trine. Oh, sorry. I talked about that. It's the sun, Mars opposition Pluto. So Mars is in Virgo, and Mars in Virgo can be very like an engineer. Like it has to act upon organizing things and making things efficient, and it just does. It's like, how can we get this done? With Saturn opposing Mars, it might feel, if you're not really, I mean, for earth signs, this is not necessarily much of an issue. If you have like a strong Virgo, for instance, in your chart, this might feel like, okay, it's a call to get yourself organized and focused. That can be very challenging if you are completely disorganized. You don't have organizational tools, and you have things all over the place, and you want to initiate something new, but you don't have a plan. You don't know how to get there. It's a bunch of ideas just starting, like, a very Mars wants to go fast, and Saturn pulls it down. So if you feel that you're being stopped a little bit in your tracks, that things are not flowing, that thing that you started, I know you wanted this new business, this new thing, it's not working, people are not cooperating, whatever, ever, what this means is, are you doing this properly? Do you have the right organization? Are you doing this? This is for the long haul. And if you're really connected to your passion and what you really want to be doing, do it right. Take agency. And Saturn is also retrograding right now. So for the time that Saturn is retrograding, it's almost a review of how you connect also to your own sense of authority, and how you are responsible for your own life, your own thoughts, and your own creations. Here, with Saturn in Pisces, it's no one's fault. Your life is your creation. And putting fingers outside, like, that happened to me because of this, because the world stage, because that person, That's not the thinking that will give you peace. That's the thinking that will create more blockage, more difficulty, and more setbacks. The thinking that will get you moving and doing things right is I take responsibility for all my thoughts, my deeds, and all my words as well. If I take responsibility and I know that my life is mine, it's nobody else is creating my life. And the collective consciousness is what we create all together. And if I tell you this, just imagine for a second that everybody in the world right now, right this minute, decided to just act out of love and do one act of kindness and just reaching to their hearts instead of pointing fingers, blaming, accusing, or whatever else we do in the world, judging. We do that a lot as humans, and that's totally fine. We're human. But let's say we decided this minute that we all decided to just act from kindness, from compassion, from love, give a kind word instead of a judgment. The whole world will shift in 1 second. So this just is to prove that all the creations, everything we create in the world is us. It's our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And when they're misaligned, if my thought is not in alignment with my word and my action, that's when we project out in the world a difficulty, a blockage, somebody telling us, no, you can't do that, you can't move forward. You can't. And also, what is the blockage that you are giving yourself? Where are you blocking yourself from creating the life that has been inspired? And the inspiration comes from that Neptune, Neptune sun trine. If you are inspired right now, follow that inspiration. Not the to-do list, not the, but I have to do this for everybody else to like me. That's not the thinking that is going to get you to this next level of you. At this moment in time, the thinking that will get you to the next level of you is I am inspired. I'm going to take action towards my inspiration, and I'm going to take action that is concise and it's clear and it's grounded. It's grounded. Mars in Virgo, it's grounded. Grounded action. So if we take grounded action and do a step by step, we might be then eventually seeing the fruits of that. For instance, I'm going to tell you again how this applies to me, my life. Yesterday, with a group of people that I live with, we inaugurated an event called Sacred Sundays, and we invited people from the community, and it was a lot of work to put together. Trust me, my Virgo was like, go, 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 doing the Saturn thing. You got to do it. You got to do it. And it's very archetypal in nature. Saturn in Pisces with, and that was actually yesterday when we had the moon also trining Saturn and the sun in that trine to Neptune. So there's this kind of vibe in the air that it's about compassion, about expressing the connection to all that is, the emotions, the expression that we can all be connected, and grounding spirituality, which is a big theme of Saturn in Pisces. And our Sacred Sundays was exactly that. It's an event where we hosted movement activities, we hosted drum circles, singing together, we hosted breath work. And yes, it was a lot of work, but in doing that, we are also practicing it and we are sharing it with others. So this inauguration was very beautiful. And it gave so much meaning. And for me in particular, a lot of passion is connected to that. So for me, this archetypal feel of what's really happening is very spot on. It's spot on. And I feel we are tapping into these higher vibrations on these higher frequencies. So yes, this is a little bit to show how the archetypal energies flow in you. What should we be avoiding? So collaborating, it's yes. People pleasing is a no-no. And that's going to be for the next 18 months. Remember that. That's the South Node in Libra. Collaborating, yes, with your unique gifts, yes, feeling the piece of the puzzle that you really fit in, that is connected to your passion, your soul, yes, within a collective to improve the lives of everybody and that is of service to the collective in general, yes, 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 yes. That will be supported by our evolution. And leaving your ego behind, and your ego desires to control everything. That's the summary, and that's what we will be experiencing. There's always much more, but I want to keep this not so long, and I will see you in another video. I hope to be channeling the passion that I have for astrology into more content for you and more guidance, which is part of what I'm feeling really inspired and called to do. That's why I'm rebranding. And I hope I can follow my own astrological advice. I'm still human too, trust me. So I sometimes fail at it, and then I'm okay if I did fail at it, but I learn. I hope you also learn, and hopefully this guidance helps you. So please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and if this video helps you in any way, shape, or form, also make sure to check my offerings for readings. And I'm also revamping that. So a little bit of patience, but you can always contact me if you want a reading right now and your life is a little bit crazy. I can always help you with that. So with that being said, I love you and I will see you in the next video next, next video, whenever that is, hopefully very soon. Love you. Bye.